They told you a lie so sweet, so politically polished, that you swallowed it without chewing. Women desire equality, but equality is a cage, a sterile pact between two neutered souls, afraid of their own fire. Desire is not democracy. It is war, tension, asymmetry. I have walked through the ruins of men who believed in the modern gospel of balance, only to find themselves discarded, forgotten, while their hearts still whispered, "But I was kind." Kindness without power is invisible. If you dare to listen, I will tear away this mask that the new morality has glued onto your face. And before I continue, I demand something from you. Yes, you watching this right now. Write in the comments the name of your city, so I know from where the echoes of this truth will shake the sleepwalking world. The modern mind politicized desire, sterilized it, made it safe for classrooms and debates. But the feminine is not safe. It is not rational. It is not symmetrical. It burns where there is risk. It awakens. When it senses a force that does not bow, that does not beg, that stands like a mountain in a world of swaying reeds. A woman may say she wants equality, but watch her body betray her words. It seeks the solid, not the mirror, the axis, not the echo. And here is the uncomfortable truth. The domesticated man, the one who asks for permission to breathe, has no gravity. If you cannot bear this, leave now. But if you hunger for the truth that scorches illusions, hit the like button and keep walking. With me into the fire. Look around you. Cities are filled with men raised to believe that desire is a polite negotiation, a contract of fairness, an endless attempt to prove that they are good enough. And yet, their goodness leaves them stranded, unchosen, ghosted. Why? Because desire is not born from fairness. It is born from contrast, from the invisible current that runs between strength and surrender, from the unspoken knowledge that one leads and the other feels safe enough to let go. But modern men were stripped of this axis. They were tamed, trained to seek approval, to wait for instructions to obey, and the more they obey, the less they are seen. This is the tragedy of our age. Men who mistake submission for virtue, who exchange their inner crown for a leash and call it love. And what do they get in return? A cold silence, a slow death of their masculine fire. Freud hinted at it long before the priests of modern morality censored his words. The feminine burns hotter in the presence of tension, of risk, of uncertainty. She desires what she cannot fully possess, what resists her gravity. Rejection, the pull and push, the unbroken will. These are not games. They are primal filters of strength, written into the female body by thousands of years of survival. But the modern narrative, drunk on fake compassion, has tried to erase this instinct, branding it toxic or problematic. And yet, in the private recesses of fantasy, where no ideology can reach, women still dream of the man who cannot be bent, who does not kneel for crumbs of affection. The truth is brutal. The one who yields too easily is never truly wanted. Desire respects only what cannot be conquered without cost. Watch closely how the tragedy unfolds. A man believes that love is earned by compliance, that the road to a woman's heart is paved with apologies, explanations, emotional exposure, stripped of any spine. He offers flowers, sweet words, endless availability, thinking this will awaken her longing. But her desire withers in the presence of his predictability, his obedience, his lack of danger. She may keep him around for comfort, for validation, for the illusion of control, but never for passion. Because passion does not live where there is no tension, no challenge, no chance of losing it all. This is the hidden cruelty of desire. It rewards strength, punishes weakness, and does not care how kind your intentions were. The man who seeks to be loved by abandoning his own gravity dies twice, first as a man, then as a forgotten lover. The modern world tells men to open up, to show vulnerability, to communicate endlessly, as if the feminine soul were moved by spreadsheets of honesty and equal compromise. But the unconscious of women speaks an older language, one that no therapist can sterilize. It listens for decision, for presence, for the unshakable pulse of a man who does not need her applause to feel alive. The more he bends to prove he is harmless, the less her body reacts, because the erotic is not safe, not fair, not balanced. It is primal, risky, a dance on the edge of surrendering to someone stronger, not weaker. And here lies the bitter irony. In the attempt to be good, men became unworthy of desire. They traded their flame for approval and were left standing alone in the cold. Every generation breeds fewer men who dare to stand firm in their own axis, who do not confuse submission with love. The modern school, the family shackled by fear, the churches preaching guilt as virtue, all conspire to forge men who live on their knees. They teach them to be agreeable, to apologize for their instincts, to chase validation as if it were air. And yet, they wonder why women's eyes no longer burn for them. A man cannot seduce when he is a shadow of himself, when his entire being whispers, "Please accept me." Desire does not spring from pity, nor from fairness. It comes from the electric tension of two forces colliding, not merging into bland sameness. The male fire dies in the lukewarm swamp of modern equality, and a dead fire warms no one. I say this knowing it will offend the pious priests of modern love. Equality builds companionship, but it rarely builds desire. The bedroom does not honor manifestos or political slogans. It bows only to force, presence, polarity. The feminine is drawn not to the man who mirrors her every wish, but to the one who stands immovable, who commands without begging, whose silence weighs more than the noise of 1,000 desperate lovers. You can keep believing the modern fairy tale, and you will keep watching your nights grow colder. Or you can awaken, tear off the mask, reclaim the axis that no school, no lover, no moralist can give you, because only a man who belongs to himself can ever be truly desired. Watch how the feminine tests you, how it withdraws affection, how it throws challenges like daggers, not to hurt you, but to feel if you bleed weakness. These are not games. They are nature's interrogations. The female instinct has always filtered out the fragile, the desperate, the men who crumble under the weight of disapproval. This is why the man who is unmoved by moods, who does not chase every flicker of attention, becomes magnetic. He is rare. He is a sun around which all else orbits, not a planet begging for warmth. But you were taught to fear rejection, to avoid conflict, to apologize before you even act. And in doing so, you erased the very tension that ignites desire. A woman cannot long for what stands already conquered, already begging for permission to exist. Desire is not negotiated, it is claimed. The modern sermons about emotional safety and equality in attraction sound noble, but they are lies told to make men tame. In reality, the unconscious of women is not moved by fair contracts, but by the gravity of strength, presence, and unpredictability. She longs for a man who can walk away, who does not need her admiration to breathe, who can command a room with silence alone. This is not cruelty, this is polarity, the law of erotic life. Break it, and passion dies. Obey it, and you will see the difference between being liked and being burned into memory. The man who reclaims this truth does not ask to be chosen. He simply is the choice. Look at the men who spend their lives begging for love, texting first, waiting hours for crumbs of attention, bending their words to avoid displeasing, reshaping their souls to fit whatever image they think a woman wants. These men think they are being romantic, but romance without backbone is repulsive. The more they try to please, the more invisible they become. They do not see that longing dies where there is no conquest, where every gesture feels owed, not earned. A man who abandons his own axis for affection becomes a servant dressed as a lover, and servants do not awaken fire. They are tolerated, pitied, sometimes used, but never truly desired. The tragedy is that they built this prison with their own hands, mistaking obedience for love. There is another kind of man, the one who does not kneel before the feminine, nor rage against it, but stands in quiet sovereignty. He knows his worth is not granted by smiles or attention. He speaks little, but each word has weight. He can vanish without warning because his life is full, his time precious, his presence never desperate. This man does not need to chase, and precisely because of that, he is chaste. The feminine feels his gravity, his mystery, his refusal to be conquered cheaply. This is the forgotten law of desire. What cannot be fully owned burns brighter in the imagination. Women have always felt this instinctively, even as they preach equality. And the men who dare to live it, who refuse to be satellites, hold a power no ideology can erase. The modern age has declared war on male fire, It whispers into every boy's ear, be soft, be safe, be apologetic. They are taught to castrate their instincts before they even feel them, to suffocate their hunger, to fear their own force. And then society laughs when these same men grow invisible, unwanted, discarded like dull stones on the roadside. They call it progress, but it is slavery dressed in virtue. A man stripped of his axis is not enlightened. He is neutered. And the greatest cruelty is this: women, despite chanting the gospel of equality, do not burn for the man who kneels. They may keep him for convenience, but they dream of another, a man who makes their blood quicken, a man unbroken by the chains the world now forges for every male soul. Look at the new temples of morality, therapy rooms, classrooms, pulpits, all preaching the same sermon. Suppress your edge, your dominance, your refusal to bend. Be nice, be soft, be endlessly safe. But nature is not safe. Desire is not safe. Life itself is a brutal tension between chaos and order, risk and conquest. A man who kills his fire to be loved commits spiritual suicide. And women, despite what they say in public, instinctively recoil from that corpse. They may praise his manners, his availability, his worshipful adoration, but in the secret places of their longing, they crave what he has murdered within himself: sovereignty, strength, danger. Tell me then, what good is being good if it kills the very force that makes you unforgettable? Beneath all the noise of modern slogans, beneath the endless speeches about equality and fairness in love, there is a code older than language. The feminine body knows it. It reacts to it before thought can interfere. This code does not care for promises of balance or emotional safety. It seeks presence, weight, gravity. The woman feels it in her spine when a man enters a room without trying to impress, without chasing, without offering himself like a product on a shelf. She feels it in the pause before his words, in his ability to vanish instead of beg, in the tension of a silence that carries strength, not fear. This is what her instinct craves, not a mirror reflecting her desires, but a pillar that stands even when she pushes, even when she threatens to leave. Desire needs contrast, not compromise. The modern man ignores this code because he was taught to distrust his own nature. He believes love is built on constant reassurance, emotional explanations, availability at every call. But what does this breed? Predictability. Weakness disguised as kindness. And the female instinct does not honor predictable men. It tests them, drains them, discards them. Freud glimpsed this long ago, calling it the filter of resistance. Women push to feel where the limit is, to see if there is a core that cannot be moved. The tragedy is that most men today have no core. They are all soft flesh, no spine, seeking acceptance as their only source of warmth. But acceptance does not inspire fire. Fire is born from resistance, from a man who can look desire in the eye and not tremble. Picture two men standing before the feminine gaze. The first bends, flatters, offers himself like an obedient pet. He believes loyalty without strength will awaken passion, that being ever present will make him irreplaceable. But the truth is savage. She already knows she owns him, and what is already owned cannot set her pulse racing. The second man stands apart, silent, steady, his life a kingdom unto itself. He does not beg, he does not follow, he does not explain. And she feels the pull, not because he seeks her, but because he doesn't need her. The axis of his being is unshakable. His world turns with or without her approval. And in that distance, in that calm refusal to orbit her whims, desire flares like dry wood meeting flame. Modern love calls this arrogance, toxicity, domination. But these are words invented by the powerless to shame those who still carry a spine. The truth is simpler. Polarity drives desire. The masculine burns brightest when it does not seek permission to exist. The man who orbits a woman becomes a shadow. The man who builds his own sun becomes unforgettable. Women do not crave equality in the heat of longing. They crave gravity, a force they cannot fully tame. And yet, men are taught to hide that force, to bury it beneath smiles and compliance, to trade it for hollow praise. Tell me, how can a man be truly loved if he first asks the world to strip him of everything that makes him alive? I watch this century parade its domesticated men, neutered lions performing tricks for crumbs of affection, and I feel disgust. They call it romance, but it reeks of desperation. They kneel before every feminine whim, hoping obedience will buy passion. But passion cannot be bought. It devours only what stands tall enough to challenge it. The modern man is a supplicant dressed as a suitor, a beggar hoping to be crowned king, and women, sensing the emptiness of his core, grow cold. They smile, they praise his kindness, but their eyes wander to the rare man who stands apart, untamed, immune, to this moral cage. Do you think female instinct respects the man who asks for permission to lead? Desire laughs at such weakness and turns elsewhere. The tragedy is that men have swallowed this poison willingly. They have let the world convince them that to be male is shameful, that to be strong is oppressive, that to claim space is a sin. They trade their wild blood for comfort, their fire for approval, their dominance for docility, and then they curse women for not wanting what they have. Become safe, soft, predictable. But how can a storm love a puddle? The feminine seeks a force, not a servant. It wants a man who cannot be fully owned, whose absence weighs as much as his presence, whose silence is louder than 1,000 explanations. Until men burn this modern scripture of submission, they will keep dying invisible deaths, unseen, undesired, forgotten. There is a different breed of man, rare as a wolf, roaming free, while the rest of the pack licks the boots of shepherds. He does not chase approval, does not beg for understanding, does not seek to be liked. His life is his throne, his will the only crown he wears. Women do not own him because he was never for sale. They orbit his gravity, pulled not by his words, but by the tension he carries, the strength that neither flatters nor bends. This man does not confuse love with servitude. He does not sacrifice his fire to be safe, nor amputate his edge to be accepted. And because he dares to remain whole, unbroken, untamed, he is unforgettable. Desire follows him like a shadow because he is the axis around which longing spins. The world calls him dangerous because he cannot be controlled. Society paints him as cold, arrogant, even cruel. But the truth is this: he is free. Free from the chains of emotional begging, free from the marketplace of approval, free from the silent slavery men now call romance. And women, despite the lies they repeat to keep the game polite, feel the ancient pull toward this. Freedom. Their instincts are older than their ideologies, older than every modern fairy tale about perfect balance. They crave a man who will not shatter under their storms, who can walk away without turning into dust, who burns quietly with his own purpose. That is the man they test, the man they dream of, the man they cannot replace once they taste his fire. And yet I see men every day surrendering this throne willingly. They drown in advice columns, therapy sessions, social sermons, all teaching them to be harmless, as if the masculine spirit was meant to be a trimmed garden, not a wild forest. They smother their own instincts, silence their will, and believe this mutilation will earn them devotion. But devotion does not come to the neutered. It comes to the man who walks his path, whether adored or despised, who holds his center even when love threatens to leave. The tragedy of the modern male is that he would rather be tolerated than feared, pitied than desired. And the result? A century of men with empty hands and heavy hearts, slaves in a game where they were born to rule themselves first. The solution is not cruelty, nor empty rebellion, nor playing at domination like a child pretending to be a king. The solution is presence, a presence so firm, so quietly unshaken, that it bends the space around it without effort. A man must return to his axis, build his own fortress of will, purpose, and silence. Stop asking, stop explaining, stop kneeling. Become the sun, not the satellite. Let women orbit if they choose, but never abandon your own gravity to chase theirs. This is the forgotten art of masculine fire, calm, grounded, undeniable. And once a man reclaims it, desire ceases to be a lottery. It becomes a consequence as inevitable as day following night. Men, hear me now. The chains around your neck were never forged by women alone. You clasped them yourself, link by link, every time you begged for love, every time you chose comfort over challenge, every time you killed your own fire to be allowed near someone else's warmth. This is not love. It is slow suicide disguised as romance. Burn those chains. Let every false lesson the world fed you turn to ash in your hands. Stop being a shadow in your own life. You were not born to orbit someone else's gravity. You were born to carve your path like lightning through a storm, untamed, unashamed, unbroken. If that truth feels too heavy, leave now. But if you feel it burning in your chest, like a raw you've been taught to swallow, stay, like this video, share it, and tell me in the comments where you are watching from, because men across the world must wake up from this dream of submission. Do you not see it? A man without an axis is prey to everything, to opinion, to rejection, to loneliness, to the fickle tides of affection. And when you are prey, even love feels like danger, because you know it can vanish and take your soul with it. The world has trained you to live this way, to fear. Your own force to believe your worth depends on someone else's smile, but there is a freedom deeper than love, rarer than approval, the freedom of standing alone, whole, unmovable. Only from there can you choose a woman, not need her. Only from there can you burn with a fire that pulls desire to you without asking for it. And only from there can you look at life and say, I am my own axis. Nothing can unmake me. I spit on this age that teaches men to beg for crumbs of love, to trade their dignity, for fleeting touches, to call weakness virtue. A man who kneels for affection will kneel for everything else in life. He will kneel before bosses, before crowds, before every tyrant who promises him a drop of validation. That is why the world wants you soft. It fears what you would become if you stood upright, spine unbent, eyes burning with purpose. Women do not truly crave your apologies, your constant availability, your trembling fear of losing them. They crave the man who can lose them and still remain a god to himself. They crave the force that does not vanish when they turn away. Be that man, or vanish forever into the herd of the harmless forgotten before your own grave is cold. This is the war no one speaks of. Not the war between men and women, but the war inside the man himself. Will he choose to exist as a fragment stitched together by approval, constantly fearing to break? Or will he return to his raw essence, fierce, sovereign, unbending? This choice is not made once, it is forged daily, in silence, in every refusal to be tamed. Women feel this choice before they see it, the way animals sense a storm. They follow the axis, not the plea. They burn for the man who does not flinch, whose presence feels like a mountain, immovable, eternal. And if you dare to build yourself into that mountain, every false law of love they fed you will crumble like dust under your boots. Men of this century, you have been sold a dream of equality that stripped you of your fire. They told you love was a negotiation, that desire could be reasoned into existence, that you must shrink to be safe. But desire is not born from balance. It is born from contrast, from tension, from the undeniable pull of a force that does not kneel. Women may ask for softness with their words, but their bodies betray the truth. They long for a sun that burns, for a gravity that cannot be escaped, for a man who is his own law. Stop being the man they tolerate. Become the man they remember in silence, the one they cannot replace, the one who does not vanish when tested. If you fear this truth, leave this channel now. But if you hunger for it, subscribe, stay, and learn what they never wanted you to know. I am not here to heal your wounds with comforting lies. I am here to tear the bandages off and let the blood remind you you're alive. You were not born to beg, not born to trade your soul for affection, not born to rot in mediocrity while calling it love. You were born to stand like a blade, drawn against the dullness of this age, to live as if every breath is a challenge to the chains they forged for you. Women, the world, even you yourself may fear that man. Good. Let them fear. Let them burn. Let them orbit your fire or flee from it, but never again let them tame you. The only equality worth having is with God's, and to become one you must first slaughter the obedient man within. The rest will follow, irresistibly, like desire to a flame.